Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Unveiling the Darkness Mysteries. My name is Emmy, and on today's episode, we're going to be discussing the mystery of sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis is when a person is awake and conscious but unable to move. It's when we can't cycle through the stages of sleep smoothly, and during these episodes, we may feel stress, anxious, pressure in the chest, and also have hallucinations. But for many people, including myself, sleep paralysis seems to be much, much deeper, darker. For some, it's a demonic attack. People have said that they've seen shadow monsters, entities, and most commonly the entity with the hat. For other people, it's an alien attack. They feel that the aliens are putting us through this paralysis state so that they could probe or do research, whatever that may be. I'm not sure, but that's for a whole nother video. Right now, we're getting ready to look at a few TikToks of people who have had sleep paralysis and get their standpoint on it, and I'll be back with more commentary.
Now, y'all know I hate anything that has to do with sleep paralysis, but here's a story that I found. During my freshman year at a major university in Michigan, I had moved dorms halfway through the year due to some roommate issues. My new dorm room would be shared with a friend from high school. Let's call her Kay. Everything was good. We were a good fit as roommates, in my opinion. We both had an affinity for the paranormal and both had an interest in basic witchcraft, as one does. Okay, let's see where this goes. We both had experiences throughout our lives and bonded over them, and had fun getting tipsy and performing basic attraction spells in our room. You know what? No comments. I'm just gonna keep reading. Fast forward to a couple months of living in the dorm together. Everything is going great, and Kay and I both settle in for the night. I drift off into dreamless sleep. Sometime in the middle of the night, I awaken. It quickly becomes obvious to me that I am experiencing sleep paralysis. I become irritated as sleep paralysis is an annoying occurrence. At that point, I had experienced sleep paralysis less than a handful of times, so I was familiar with the routine but still aggravated by it. I get it. I anticipate the surreal feeling of attempting to fall back asleep completely and simultaneously attempting to wake myself up. But then, things take a turn. Ooh. My dorm bed was pushed flush against the center block wall, closest to our hallway leading to our shared bathroom. Suddenly, I noticed long black fingers curve around the wall. I feel my heart rate pick up, a strong pounding in my chest. I tried to convince myself that I'm just seeing things. This is what sleep paralysis can do to you after all. Okay. Then a completely solid black head begins to peek around the wall, seemingly looking right at me. A featureless, solidly black figure now has half of its body around the wall, facing directly at my sleeping figure. I vividly remember my entire room, the light of the emergency alarm on our ceiling, the TV against the adjacent wall, Kay fast asleep facing the window by her bed. Even more vividly, I remember the terror of attempting to call her name, thinking that if this is a dream and I can manage to scream for her, the shadow man will disappear. Whew! After what felt like an eternity, I finally am able to wake up fully. I never fell back asleep, but actually was just able to start moving again. I told Kay about the experience the next morning, and she told me to look up the various deaths that have occurred in the dorms on campus. At that point, I knew that while my sleep paralysis was very real, so was the shadow man watching me sleep. Y'all, first of all, why are you playing around with witchcraft? Why is it fun to get drunk and do witchcraft? What? And then you're doing attraction spells at that. Like, if you follow me, you already know how I feel about that. This person has 2 more stories from college that they experienced. Let me know if you guys want the other 2 stories down in the comments, and I will post them.
Okay, time for another sleep paralysis story time. I was going through my spiritual awakening and I was watching videos about sleep paralysis, and I heard a few people say that if you face the demons in your sleep paralysis, then you can lucid dream and astral project. So this night I decided not to take melatonin or anything to help me sleep, and I told my husband that I'm gonna do this. He knows how to shake me awake if he sees me like panicking in my sleep. I'm laying there trying to fall asleep, and all of a sudden I feel my husband pick up one of our dogs to put him on the bed, and I hear the dog start talking. So I'm like, all right, we're doing this. Then I look over, and on my side of the bed I see an alien figure, just the typical like skinny alien figure. And then on my husband's side of the bed I see another alien figure, and they're both walking like towards the front of the bed. I started to panic and I started to shake myself awake, and then I was like, no, I need to face this. So then I turned to look at them, and I'm gonna have to make a part two of my sleep paralysis story. So I thought, no, I have to face it in order to get through this. So I turn and look at the alien figures, and they start blinking and multiplying. It scared me so bad that I jolted awake and I literally cried. Because if you've ever had sleep paralysis, you know how real it feels. I mean, it felt like that really just happened, and I couldn't go back to sleep. I honestly don't know what's up with my sleep paralysis and the glitching and blinking, but it's just like a weird thing that happens to me. But yeah, that was one of the most horrifying nights of my life.
A few years ago, I had one of the most demonic encounters of my life. I was in the state of Wyoming in school, okay? And I was in my dorm room, and it was about 3 a.m., and I found myself paralyzed. I could not move. Now, when I opened up my eyes, I saw two figures in my room. I could not move my body, but I could see them with my eyes, and I saw a figure in the corner of my wall, and another ghost figure begin to come over to my bed. It was like a black, dark smoke and a human figure. And it began to do witchcraft and incantations over me. I just saw them like this over me. Now, I was trying to scream Jesus, but I couldn't. I wanted to say Jesus, but I couldn't. But finally, I was able to say Jesus, and these spirits just disappeared. And now, as I jump off my bed to run out the door of my room, it's like the room contorted and the door got further out. And once I got out of there, I said, oh my gosh, I'm not going to go back there. Now, this was because I was living in sin. This was back when I was in university. I was having spiritual encounters. This was absolutely demonic. And a lot of people are having these. Live in purity, seek out deliverance, and command it to go in Jesus' name. Then you will never have these encounters again. God bless you.
Hey guys, you know how I always used to tell you guys these scary stories? I got another one. This isn't a gin story or anything, it's another sleep paralysis story, but again, just as scary. So I used to get sleep paralysis a lot before, but it actually ended up stopping once I got married. I don't know why that could be, but probably because my body can sense someone's next to me, so it doesn't really panic and wake me up in the middle of the night. But the thing is, my husband ended up getting a new job, so he has to leave at 5:30 because the shift starts at 6. So for the rest of the night, I'm sleeping alone again. And literally the first day he went to his work, I ended up getting sleep paralysis. And it was terrifying. So I ended up waking up and I was sleeping on my front, which you're not supposed to do. And I realized I was paralyzed because I couldn't move, I couldn't speak, I couldn't say anything. And I felt this heavy weight on top of me, and usually this is how my sleep paralysis goes, like I just feel a weight on me. But this time it was quite different because when I opened my eyes, I see something next to me. And it was sleeping next to me, and it was this figure, this very distorted figure. It was distorted in a way where its back was facing me, like all the way like this, but his head was like turned all the way around. So his back like this, and his head was turned all the way around, and it had his wide eyes, like, you know, like his eyes were very expanded and they're very white, and it's, you know, just staring at me. And I was like, oh my god, like I need to say the Ayatul Kursi like right now. And I was trying to say it, but I couldn't because again I was paralyzed. So I'm just saying the Ayatul Kursi in my head, and finally I closed my eyes for a bit and opened them, and it's gone. But the thing is, it didn't stop there because another figure ended up coming into my view, and it was under my blanket. So I started standing up, so I could just see this figure and under my blanket just hovering over me. So again, I start to say Ayatul Kursi in my head, and this time I'm trying my best to just try to move, try to get out of it, and I finally do, and just as I do, everything just disappears. And that was the only time I ever had it. It's been 2 weeks since my husband's working at his new job, so it hasn't occurred yet. I really hope it doesn't, because that was terrifying.
Have you seen one of these in your room before? Now, beyond the obvious...
So I was an adult, like a married man with a child, when I found out that not everybody has sleep paralysis like pretty much every night, if not at least once a week. Like my wife, when I told her, I was like, yeah, don't you hate it? Because like most of the time, it was like, to me, it was like a part of sleeping. I was like, don't you hate that part of sleep where you're just like stuck to your bed and you can't like, you can't think, you can't move, you can't do, all you just gotta do is sit there and breathe. And a motherfucker was like, what? I was like, yeah, every night, you know, the part of your sleep where you're just, and you would see these entities, and you could see them, they're kind of like aliens, and they would walk in and out of the room, and they would touch you to make sure that you were, you know, and then she told me the wildest shit. She goes, that's never happened to me. That's like a motherfucker telling me they never had a dream before. You know what I'm saying? Like, that happens so often on my motherfucking, like normal sleep process that I didn't know. Like, and I didn't think to ask as a kid, like, because when you're a kid, you just assume everything that happens normally is normal. You know what I'm saying? Every night, if you have sleep paralysis every night, you assume everybody else is having sleep paralysis every night. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I didn't know I was poor when I was young because I just assumed that, like, you know, nobody had stuff. So, you know, I had enough stuff, so I just figured, you know, that's normal. That's how the sleep paralysis thing is. When I hear about the aliens and the entities and all this kind of stuff that people think is metaphysical, I think it's interesting. Don't get me wrong. I think it's completely interesting. But I'm like, oh no, that's just a sleep paralysis guy. Like, yeah, that's a thing that happens when you sleep. It's a hallucination. I didn't know other people didn't have this happen to them all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought this was just a thing that people experience. And now I'm finding out, not only do most people not have this happen to them all the time, but it's a weird thing that happen constantly. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I say every night, like at least once a night for the majority of my life, I got sleep paralysis for like some time. You can't tell how long it is because you're asleep and all that kind of stuff. But it feels like at least a whole dream, which is what, like an hour or something. And as I get older, I am slowly coming to the realization that shit is not normal. And now it's even more interesting to me because I'm like, I want to know what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it the aliens? And if it is the aliens, that is the stupidest way to interact with human beings. If you're gonna make it to where I can't talk and I can barely breathe and I can't move, what the fuck is you doing? You know what I'm saying? You ain't even probing me. You was really just touching me. It felt like you was touching me to see if I was still alive. Like, you need to step your game up, aliens. I'm for real.
That's sleep paralysis?
The myth behind it is that there's a demon sitting on your chest, so you can't move.
I was a little kid, and I woke up from sleep paralysis. It was like maybe 2:30. So I wake up, and then I'm like stiff, bro. Like I can't move. And the weird thing is, bro, I'm on my side, and my door's open, bro. And like all I could think about in my head, bro, was what if like hands came around like my door and like wrapped around.
Sleep paralysis is very real, and it's one of the causes some people die in their sleep mysteriously. They just give in to it. That's what Freddy Krueger was based off of. But the spirits involved with sleep paralysis, they have to go whenever you command them in Jesus' name, which shows the supremacy of the one behind that name. So ponder that. If you like content like this, follow for more.
Okay, everyone, I'm back with my final thoughts. Shout out to the TikTokers in this video. Something very interesting about sleep paralysis is that it could happen to literally anyone, and how so many people worldwide could have similar experiences or even see the exact same figures. It's just shocking. Also, is there a connection between aliens and demons? If you think so, or if you have an opinion about it, just leave it down below. I don't know, guys. But I may do a part 2 on this, so stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.